The federal parliament resumes today to pass the government's massive $130 billion JobKeeper package.
The government's emergency wage subsidy scheme is expected to pass the federal parliament today.
Treasurer Josh Frydenberg is starting one of the biggest days of his life.
I think I've got everything.
Preparing with his staff and colleagues for a media blitz to sell the biggest single spending measure ever contemplated by an Australian government.
Treasurer, thank you for your time. Now, we have this historic legislation coming through today.
We're joined by the Federal Treasurer, Josh Frydenberg.
Good to be with you, Mel.
Listen and learn. We can't do that.
We can't, exactly. Well, when I came up here just over 2 weeks ago, I packed enough clothes for 4 days. I ended up staying for 15.
It's only been 10 days since the government announced its plan to subsidise the wages of 6.6 million Australians for 6 months, with a $130 billion price tag that dwarfs everything that has been spent in the past. Despite the complexities, circumstances demand haste, and that means everybody in the building knows that this legislation has to be passed in just one day.
Very unusual by video link, because normally I'd get together with my Secretary of the Treasury on a daily basis in person.
Hey Treasurer, how you going?
Nice to see you.
See you too.
Keep your distance.
I always try to. It's an extraordinary time to be going through, and it challenges presumably all the things you think about.
Yeah, it's absolutely. Well, John Howard has always been someone I can talk to at length, and I was going for a walk around Parliament House one early Saturday morning during the process of preparing for the JobKeeper package, and he said to me, Josh, during times like this, there are no ideological constraints. And it was a very powerful message from someone who's pretty much seen it all in politics.
Well, these are pretty strange times, Laura, and I think it is a stupendous amount of money, but it's warranted. We got the first draft of this legislation at 10:30 on Sunday night. Some of my colleagues in my team spent most of Sunday night, Monday morning working through the detail of that.
Labor has agreed to pass the government's bill, but will try a series of amendments.
We've also said that being constructive doesn't mean just keeping quiet.
Jim Chalmers has some insight into what's going on a few hundred metres down the hall in the Treasurer's office.
There are hundreds, if not thousands of people charged with implementing that decision. Well, Centrelink needs to be geared up. The parliamentary drafters need to be ready to go. There are a whole range of people that the broader Australian community will never really know who are in lots of ways the kind of unsung heroes of these kinds of packages.
The biggest argument is over the government's decision not to cover casuals employed for less than 12 months.
I think everyone agrees that you have to draw a line somewhere.
What's happening today is a good thing. There's going to be millions of people who get helped, but there are also millions of people who are being left behind. They describe this as some sort of Dunkirk moment. Well, there's more than 1 million casuals they're leaving on the beach.
Opposition, unions and even business continue to press for changes that would include more of these workers, and this is the focus of debate in the Parliament. Out of all of this extraordinary period, what's been the most frightening moment for you as Treasurer to look out and see what was happening in the economy?
The most distressing moment was to see those lines outside Centrelink. And I think for anybody who saw those queues and people who were lining up because through no fault of their own they had lost their jobs or been stood down, that was a pretty distressing moment.
And for your signature.
So at 10 o'clock we'll be down in the chamber and I'll present the bills. The Coronavirus Economic Response Package Omnibus Measures Number 2 Bill 2020. They'll be talking about this down the pub all night, that name. The opposition have been supportive of the thrust of the legislation, and obviously there'll be a debate today and they'll move whatever amendments they think are necessary.
I call the Treasurer.
Today is the day that this bill saves millions of Australian jobs.
There are still questions about how this bill will play out in the real world. Small businesses are worried about surviving April, when they're supposed to be paying all their staff at least $750 a week, which they'll get back from the government in May.
This is the discussion we've had with the banks directly, and they've put out a statement to say that banks will be working with their customers to bridge that period from the early April to early May. This, the People's House, will deliver for the people of Australia.
The federal parliament that met today was much reduced in numbers and political noise. There remains disquiet, however, about the fact it is not due to meet again until August. The new laws give extraordinary discretion to the Treasurer to make further changes to the JobKeeper payment without new parliamentary approval.
What those casual workers need to know is that the only thing standing between them and accessing some of these JobKeeper payments is literally the Treasurer's signature.
With the Parliament debating the historic legislation well into the night, there are still plenty of sectors that require help from the government, like universities and the cultural sector. And lots of areas of business too. G'day Innes, how are you going?
I'm good, Laura, how are you?
Big day in Parliament today. So Innes, what do you think the trajectory of the economy is from here now?
Well, in many ways, we're in the storm before the calm. We've had a lot of activity, a lot of hurt in the business community, and business is now assessing that. But everyone is looking to about 3 months ahead, from, say, June to September, when current orders run out, contracts run out, and the economy has really started to slow. Cash flow's virtually stopped if it hasn't already. And in 2 to 3 months, we're going to get hit by another wave.
We've been very conscious that there is no end in sight for the coronavirus. I never thought that I would be delivering deficits of the size that we will be delivering, but it's just a reflection of this external economic shock and the impact it's having.
Hi, I'm Lee Sales. Thanks for watching this story. If you'd like to watch more of 730's stories, they are on the left of your screen. And tap on the button below to subscribe and get the latest from ABC News.